Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And you're wondering why am I showing you the bottom of my R3. Now let me show you. When I get on my R3, put it up, I'm going to keep the kickstand down. You can see on how not much space there is over here at the bottom of the kickstand. Obviously when I sit down, it kind of just bottoms out. And if you're anything like me and anything over 100 pounds, obviously you can see that the suspension is not the best anymore. I bought this R3 back in 15 and now it is already 2025. Now to show you another angle of the kickstand, and when I sit on it, I'm going to go ahead and put the bike straight up, but I'm not going to sit until right now. And when I do, it just bottoms out. The bike, you know, it being this old already, I've never replaced the shock, so today we are going to be replacing the shock with not a newer shock, but one from a Kawasaki, which will be a little bit more stiffer and also will allow this bottoming out to happen. Makes the bike feel, I guess, a little squishy because they are much more softer suspension, but ideally not really that great for when riding, especially when you want to kind of hit it, I guess. So yeah, and it does create a little bit of a bounce when you're going over bumps. So by installing a stiffer spring, it's going to raise up the bike a little bit more, and I'm not going to have that bottoming out portion when sitting on the bike. Now, you may not have an issue if you are only 100 pounds. Obviously, you're pretty light, so you should be fine. But anything higher than 150 plus, up to, I don't know, just 150 plus weight, you're going to have that squishiness, especially having on a much older bike as my 2015 R3. Now we're over here at the bench, and I wanted to show you the shock that I got. It is from a Kawasaki motorcycle, and it came in a fairly good shape. I would say that the spring, you know, did have a few scratches, but what I did is that I just, you know, buffed that out, very fine sandpaper, and then I decided to give it a fresh coat of red paint. That's what the spring was anyway. And I think probably before that it was probably black, but who knows. But from what I saw, it was red. Anyhow, I also have specifications of the size of the spring of the shock. So even if you can't find a Kawasaki shock like this one, you could also buy a brand new one. But it has to be this length of a shock, because anything longer, you won't be able to put the kickstand down at all on your R3. So this shock does have around 7 settings of height, and you know, to make it higher or lower, or making the spring a lot more stiffer compared to softer, I would say, compared to the stock R3 one, which doesn't have that many settings. I think it only has like 3 or 4. Anyhow, all right, let's get to it, and let me show you what you need to do to install this new spring onto the bike. All right, so first things first, we need to do is we have to get access to the bolt. That's going to be the support of the top part of the shock, which is up there. So we do need to get access to there. So in order to get to this, you got to remove a screw over here on this side and a screw over there on that side, and that's going to be with a 4mm Allen key. So let's go ahead and do that. Once you do remove, you got to make sure you remove from both sides. Okay, now that I got the panels off on both sides, we have easy access to the bolt, which is right over there. Now the size for the bolt on the top and on the bottom is going to be a 17mm. So 17 on this side, 17 on the other side, and then there's an access hole right over here on the swing arm, as you can see right there. Socket with a long extension, and that's also going to be with a 17mm as well on that side. On this side, you're going to need and here's the bolt over here, an open end wrench, and that's also going to be with a 17mm. So you're going to need one of these for this side. All right, you can see that I have all my 17mm socket wrenches and everything like that. You may need a breaker bar. That's why I got this one, in order to loosen up the bolts, and because if you can't get it with this little small one, for sure the breaker bar will really help on getting the screw and bolt loose. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and you want to do this while your bike is like this, but we're not going to completely remove it like this. We do have to, you know, lift up the bike in order for the swing arm to drop down in order to get the shock out. Right now, we're just going to loosen the bolt on the top and on the bottom. Just loosen it for now. And then what you're going to need to have is going to be a couple of jack stands, because we're going to put the jack stand underneath the front pegs here. And besides that, if you happen to have one of these, this is for the back wheel, because I don't want the back wheel to just drop down when we take the bolt out. I want to kind of ease it down. So I have this. It's a Pitbull wheel chalk, I guess is what it's called, and this will help me lower the wheel down, and then again he'll help me raise it up as well. All right, so let me go ahead and get these bolts loosened. You guys do the same. All right, so to loosen it, I wanted to show you real quick, as I have all my crazy extensions. You want to get your socket and wrench on this end, and you want to Make sure you have it there. So once you have your wrench there on this side, I'm gonna go ahead and go to the other side over here. And with this one, I'm gonna be using my breaker bar because I am not a really strong guy. So I already got my bar, as you can see, extended all the way out. I'm gonna go ahead and put the other part over here on this end. All right, like so. All right, so this is where you're gonna just pretty much get that leverage and break the bolt loose. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. At the same time, you wanna hold the other end just in case. All right, so here I go. Proving to be a bit on the very tight side. Oh boy, this thing is a lot harder than I thought it would be on actually taking it out. At this point, I might even consider using the impact gun. Yeah, this thing's on there pretty tight. So at this point, either you get a friend to hold that other wrench on the other side. At this point, I'm gonna probably get the impact gun to try to get that bolt really loose because it is on there extremely tight. Okay, I wanted to give you a little update as I had to shorten my breaker bar and use more of a impact gun extension, more hardened steel on that. That one was getting twisted. So besides that there, over here, I actually had to put the wrench, because again, I'm not a strong dude. So I put the wrench in here, wedged it in there. So when it came up, it would get the, it would get pinned against the frame and, help hold the nut so I could actually twist it on the other end. So far, I think I got it loose enough. So that's all I wanted, just to get it loose enough. Now I'm going to do the same, or try to do the same down here with this one and see if I could get that bolt loosened up. All right, well, the bottom one was a lot easier to unscrew than the top one. All right, well, now that I got it loosened, not completely removed, now we're gonna have to go ahead and lift up the bike from the pegs over here. Now let me show you how I'm gonna do it. If you guys know of a better way, leave a comment down below of this video to let other people who are watching the video that you found a better way than what I'm about to show you, go from there. All right, so what I'm gonna use is jack stands. As you can see, this one is lowered all the way down, and then this one I have it up. If you have these particular ones, these are from Craftsman, you want to be able to see at least one full tooth up and the other one down there. If you were to count kind of the notches on the side, it'll be 1, 2, I would say. So 2 clicks up. Yep, so 2 clicks up to kind of lift up. But you want to be able to lift up the bike just a little bit higher than what it's sitting at right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this, and I'm going to wedge it underneath the silver part of the peg. You don't want to do it on this part because this part could move. So you want to do it right here at this silver part, because that part is stationary, so it shouldn't go anywhere. So let me go ahead and put the camera back a little bit and show you how I'm going to do it lifting up the bike. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our rear lift, get it positioned under the bike. So I got one right here, which is made by Pitbull. If I can get a link, I'll put it down below of this video. So all right, go ahead and center it. Then we're gonna get our lift, line it up. Okay, then we're gonna lift up the bike, or lift up the back end, like so. Okay, now that we got that back end lifted, now we're gonna use our jack stands. We're gonna position it right on the underneath part of this silver part. I have it 2 clicks up. So if you happen to have some similar ones like I do, that's where you want to have it. Okay? So position it right underneath that silver part. So now that you got that one there, you want to go ahead and do the same thing with the other side. So because we have our shifter on this side, I had to put the jack stand a little bit on the sideways department. All right, well, hopefully I'm crossing my fingers that it's going to hold steady enough and for us to remove the shock and everything and not slip, and crossing my fingers on that department. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my little ramp over here for the back tire, and I'm just going to go ahead and put it underneath here, my tire wedge, and put it enough where it's actually going to hold the tire. And we'll go ahead and lower it a little bit. And I kind of just want it snug. Release the shock from the body. You don't want that whole swing arm just to drop down. So with this, it's going to help support the rear tire. Now I'm going to go ahead and slowly bring the bike down. You want to make sure that you're looking at both ends, because you definitely don't want the bike to fall from where it's at. So far looking pretty good. It's moving because it's obviously rolling, but you want to make sure that you get it right on the jack stands themselves. It's looking pretty sturdy and safe. So now that we got that on there, and also you want to make sure that you keep your kickstands down as a safety in case it does happen to fall, hopefully that could kind of catch it. We already got that. I'm going to keep this off to the side. So we are all good in that department. Now it's safe to go ahead and remove the nut that is holding onto the shock. I'm going to go ahead and do the top one first. Then I'm going to go ahead and do the bottom one. Okay, I already took out the nut. Now I'm going to use the extension from my, well, it's from my impact gun, but I'm going to use this extension to kind of knock out the bolt that's there to push it all the way out. I'm going to use a hammer, put it right at the edge there, and just tap it out. All right, that's as far as I could go with this guy. So I'm gonna probably use a screwdriver and tap it out the rest of the way. And that bolt should probably come out on the other end. Instead of a screwdriver, I'm gonna use my small extension for my small ratchet. And again, put it into the screw and then tap it, and it's gonna come out this other end. So I'm gonna see if I can get a little bit of a closer view for you guys. As the bolt is right here. So here is the bolt right there. All this plastic's kind of in the way. I'm gonna go ahead and record so you guys can see it. The bolt coming out from that end. All right, it is almost out. Now I got it wedged with this plastic piece here. Okay, let's see if I can turn this harness piece to the side. All right, now that it's to the side, okay, now hopefully the screw will come out. Many chances are that the thing may be wedged in its place as well. The piece got wedged in its place. So I'm gonna have to, and as that thing really shot out there, I'm glad it didn't hit the camera. All right, so now my piece that I used to knock it out now is kind of wedged in there because now all the pressure is resting on that piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to lift up my wedge down here to kind of lift up and give a little bit release pressure. Okay, in order to get the bolt out from this side, it's gonna be a little bit tricky. Get a screwdriver, get your hammer, and kind of at an angle, start tapping it from this side. All right, so I'm gonna keep on doing it. Just gotta move the camera because the camera's in my way since I wanted to show you. Okay, at this point, you could go ahead and start lowering down your tire wedge so that the wheel and everything can start coming down. At this point, it'll be a lot more easier to bring it down than it was to bring it up, as now there is no pressure or tension on the whole assembly itself. So I go ahead and do that, and you wanna make sure you lower it all the way down to the floor. Therefore, you're able to remove the shock out. Okay, now you're wondering why I have a big rod sticking out from there. It's because it's so tight in there to try to get the bolts. I already got most of it. Then I got pretty much the face or the back end of it, and that's why I got this rod to kind of push it the rest of the way. Alrighty, that did the trick. It pushed it enough where I could actually grab it with my channel locks, twist it, and pull it out. Alright, so now you can go ahead and try to maneuver that shock right out of the bike. Alright, so let's see if I can do it on camera for you guys. Pretty much just lift it up and out. And it actually wasn't that bad of actually taking the whole thing out. And here it is. As you can see, I do have a shock tube on it. Now what this does, if you don't know, has a zip tie on the top to kind of keep it secured in place. But it keeps all that dirt and gunk and debris out of the shock. Therefore, less cleaning and maintenance. And yeah. All right, well there it is. It is out. Now let's go ahead and compare it to the new shock that we're going to install on the bike. All right, we're over here at the bench. And yes, there is red paint over here because this shock was a bit on the used side, but it wasn't too bad. So I actually wanted to give it a fresh coat of paint. It was originally red, so I just decided, like I said, give it a fresh coat of paint. And yeah, so not bad. It's over, you see this like weird marking over here just because as the paint was drying, I had this on the cardboard box and the shock kind of started tilting over to the cardboard box. And when the paint dried, some of the cardboard box got attached to the shock. I didn't want to kind of scrape it and start over again, so I just spray painted over that part. But in that, it came up pretty good. So that's that. Oops, there goes the camera. All right, so that is that. I'll just put it over here on this side. See the comparisons? Obviously, the length is going to be the biggest distinct factor as so we try to put as close without scratching it. So as you can see, the length of it, okay, maybe you can't see. All right, so right there, you could see that the length of it is just a tad bit longer on the Kawasaki shock compared to our R3 shock, about, I would say, probably an inch. So an inch longer as far as the height. Other than that, the other big thing is that the diameter of the shock of the R3 is a lot smaller compared to the one of the Kawasaki. Obviously, it's a little bit on the wider. As soon as I tip them up, you'll be able to see the difference on the size. And the next is going to be the bottom part where it's going to attach to the swing arm. Obviously on the R3 this is much wider, but on the Kawasaki it's much shorter. I did buy some spacers that's going to compensate to make it as wide as this one, so it could fit perfectly onto the R3. So let me show you real quick, and then I also have specs on or the sizes of these particular washers and spacers that I got. Now if you wanted to go ahead and buy a kit that's pretty much this, you know, you could, and it costs around $30. I didn't want to spend $30, honestly. I could get this part for like close close to nothing. I went to my local hardware store, and so for the spacers, I got 4 spacers. So here's the 4 spacers, and then here's over here on the right side is going to be the sizes of the 4 spacers that I got. I'll just keep it here on the screen for a little bit so you guys could see it. Okay, so besides the 4 spacers, after that, I got these 2 collars. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any other ones that were going to be without this little screw at my hardware store, but I got 2 collars, and they have a little set screw, which is fine because then I could tighten it down, and I know that these things are not going to go, they're not going to go anywhere anyway because the bolt's going to be holding them in place. But so here are the 2 collar spacers, bigger spacers that I got, and then again on the right side here is the information for these particular ones. I'll leave it up on the screen for a little bit so you guys could look at it. So that's going to be pretty much it for the extra parts that we're going to need. Again, I paid under $10 for all of this stuff, but again, if you guys wanted to buy a kit that's the exact same of this stuff, you're more than welcome to spend much more money, but I'm here trying to save you a little bit of money on a do-it-yourself basis. So let me go ahead and tilt the shocks up so you can kind of see the diameter difference of these 2 shocks. All right, so if I were to tilt this one up a little bit, not even sure if you could be able to see it, but you can see that the diameter is kind of small on this one, and on the camera it's hard to tell, to show you, to see on the difference of the diameter, but in person for sure you could see the diameter of the R3 is a lot smaller than the one from the Kawasaki. All right, so that's that. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll put this there. Oh yeah, and then for the top part of the shock, they're pretty much the same. You don't need any spacers or washers to make that part fit. So let's get this shock into the R3, and yeah, let's go from there. So for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and clean the spot where the shock goes. Just kind of give it a nice little clean, since who knows when's the next time I'll be able to clean that area, especially with the shock being there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. If you want to do that, go ahead and clean that area. You could go and do so as well. If not, skip that cleaning part and we'll get to installing the shock. Okay, I'm gonna show you here from the bench before we get to the bike. Let me go ahead and put this off to the side on what we're gonna be doing to put this shock on the back of the bike. All right, so once I get the shock in position from the bottom part, I'm gonna go ahead and we are going to slide our bolt in, but we're not gonna put it in all the way. So what we need to do first is going to, I'll probably put the spacers first. So once we get into this position, I slide the spacers in first, 2 of them. Then after that, we're gonna get the collar in, and then we're gonna slide it in all the way like this. Once we have it in all the way, or at least up to here, we're gonna go the opposite, the other way. So we're gonna put the collar, and then we're gonna do the 2 spacers, and then we're gonna slide it in all the way. We're gonna put the lock nut, and then we're gonna tighten down the bolt, not all the way, but enough. So that's how it's gonna look like once it's on the bike. Obviously the bracket's gonna be right over here, or right, I would say like in here like that. If it's up to you if you want to, you know, lock these set screws in there. I don't think we would need to. Obviously they're not gonna go anywhere. It's not like they're gonna fly right off. It's gonna look like that once we have everything in there. So once I put it in there, I'll take a video or I'll take a snapshot from the other side of or right where the bike is, so you could see on the swing arm on how it's gonna look. By the way, the reason I'm showing you here on the bench and not on the bike is because the position of I'll try to do the best I can in showing the footage, but again, it's a very tight space and not that much light. I did put my other light on there to try to show you as much as I can, but I figure on the bench being much more clearer view, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm doing. All right, so here is pretty much the position of where the shock is gonna be in. So it's gonna be right inside there. So again, once we get the shock in there, we're gonna slide the screw in. We're gonna put the space. We're gonna put the collar, the spacers, the collar, and then slide the bolt a little bit more. And then when we get to this side, we're gonna put the collar, spacers, and then slide the bolt all the way in over here. All right, now to slide in the shock, and there is no real preference on which way, if it's, which way is the right way. I'm just gonna go ahead and slide it in carefully. All right. Okay, now that I got that part in, okay, now I'm just going to position the shock there. So now, actually, I will put the top part of the shock in just to kind of hold it in place, and then I will, that way I have to hold it here. All right, so I'm going to move the camera because it's kind of in my way, but like I had showed you earlier on how we're going to do it, that's pretty much what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You guys do the same. Just be careful, take your time on this, and then I'll show you what to do next. Now, upon thinking about it, now would be a good time actually before I do install is lean the bolt. Just get a paper towel or a rag or whatnot, put some alcohol on it, isopropyl alcohol, and then just give it a good wipe down. Now the reason is because you want to, I don't know how much, well, pretty much I got this bike brand new, so I know how much dirt exactly, but in case you happen to buy a bike that's used, now would be a good time to just kind of clean it up and actually grease it up. So as I do that, might as well, doesn't hurt to put a little grease on there. And what the grease I'll be using is going to be this white lithium grease. I'm not sure you could even see that anymore, but it's all cream crinkly. The white lithium grease, I'll have a link for this particular one down below so you guys can purchase same. You don't have to put that much. Go here and then just, you know, put a little bit on there, and you're going to just kind of smother it all over the shaft of the rod. Put a little bit here, and just with your finger kind of just give it a nice coat over the whole thing. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a lot, just enough to kind of coat the whole shaft, and this will help it kind of slide into the area a lot easier. And then you want to do that, make sure you do that for the top. All right, so there it is. Okay, so now that I've done that, now I could go ahead and put the bolt in through the bottom area. All right, with a little wiggling and maneuvering, I'm actually getting my hand in there. It was a very tight space. Couldn't have done it with the camera in my way. Let me see if I could get the shot in there. All right, that's gonna be as best I could get it with the camera. As you can see, it is a very tight space, and even for viewing. Then you can see right over here, 2 spacers right here on this side, and the collar on the end part of it. Same thing on the other side, all over there. We have the collar, and then we have the 2 spacers all the way at the end. So everything is lined up, and everything is looking really good in there. So next is going to be putting our bolt, our lock nut right over here. So just go ahead and thread that on. Again, it's gonna be, you know, just hand tighten for now until we get the bike, you know, all positioned. Right now, if you just hand tighten it, you still have a little bit of wiggle room to actually, you know, kind of move the shock a little bit. Not too much up and down, but just enough to seat it properly. Now it is up to you if you want to put a little bit of thread lock, but as you can see, there is a locking part of the nut here. Can zoom in or focus a little bit better. So there is a locking nut right there on this, but it's up to you if you want to put a little bit of thread lock. It doesn't hurt to do so on putting the nut back onto the bolt. Okay, next we're going to do is going to put the bolt through the top part, and as you can see, it's just a tad hair. I'll show with a crayon right here that we just need to lift up the arm, the back swing arm a little bit, and we'll be able to, you know, thread that bolt in there smoothly. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that bolt as well, and then I'm also going to put a white lithium grease on there and slide that. Okay, I already got the screw in over there, and actually I only didn't even have to lift up the wheel that much, just a little bit. That was enough just to get it up there. Like I said, this shock is a lot longer than the stock, so not that bad. All right, so I do have all the bolts just snug, not completely super tight yet, because I want to get the bike on, you know, completely on the ground and off of the jack stands right there. So we're gonna go ahead right now. I'm gonna go ahead and remove my little wheel chock, I guess, whatever you want to call it, my little wheel lift I have there. I'm gonna go ahead and remove that out, and then I'm gonna go ahead and grab my rear stand, put it onto the bike, lift it up, get these jack stands off of the bike, and then I will go ahead and lower the bike back down. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. You guys do the same as well. All right, guys, now that we're at this point, we're gonna see that since the bike is, you know, much more higher, once I lift it off and move this, that the mic tilts a little bit more on the leaning side. So yeah, making sure, holding on to it. Okay, my stand, and then let's see how much it actually leans when we put it down. Actually, not that bad. I've seen other people where they have their bike and it's leaning a lot more than that. Honestly, it's not leaning that much. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, and now that we have it off of everything, now would be a good time. Now it's going to be the good time to actually tighten down the bolts completely. So get your wrenches on both ends, and then go with the torque wrench. Let me look up the specifications of what it calls for the R3 for the bolts, and then I will put it up here on the screen. All right, so now that you see the specifications for the tightening of the bolt, go ahead, get your torque wrench, start tightening down the bolts for the top and on the bottom. All righty, it's looking good. And as far as that shock tube sock that I had before on the stock one, I don't know if I'm going to be putting it on this one, because the red is really popping with the, you know, obviously my bike is red, so it kind of adds that nice accent to it. So I may just rock it out for a little while without putting the shock tube on it. Like I said, the shock tube cover is just to keep dirt and debris out of it, you know, accumulation to happen inside of the shock area. But again, like I said, with the red spring now, it's actually complementing the bike very well when you look underneath there in that area. So all right, so that's pretty much it for that department. Everything is already torqued down to spec. Again, you don't want to over tighten and torque those bolts. They could snap and break, and then you're going to be SOL on those pieces. All right, so now that everything is nice and tight, now you can go ahead and put your fairing panels here on both sides with the 4mm Allen key and the screws and bolts there. All right, as you can see, the panels are already on, and it is looking so good so far. All right, so now I'm really curious to see how far from the floor that the kickstand is, because if you remember before, it was when I sat down, it just bottomed out on the floor. And when I, you know, so let's go ahead and let me go ahead and remove the rear stand. I'm going to sit on it and we will see. So let me go maybe from this angle, and then more focus probably there. So let me go ahead and remove the rear stand. I can already feel on putting my leg over it, so it can be a lot more. Okay, so put it in the middle. Wow, it's pretty much, I could pretty much put my whole entire foot underneath the kickstand, and when I sit, it doesn't, it bottoms a little bit, but not like before. I mean, even if I were to bounce on it, I can't even get it to tap on the floor, which is good. And again, I could adjust the shocks and you know, for a little bit more stiffer, but I could already feel on stiffness just a little bit when sitting on the bike. Alrighty, so, and then when I put it on the kickstand, I do feel it kind of like leaning like a little bit, but I think that's going to pretty much conclude the video. All right, and you could already see it how much more it's leaning on that kickstand. Now this is going to be, obviously it's a stock kickstand, and I probably will change it out, honestly, now that I haven't seen how much it's leaning. I am going to swap that out and get a different one, and once I get that new one, I will do a video to show you on how to swap that out. You can see already from here on how much more it's leaning. Again, not by extremely amounts of lean, but a good amount. You can see from here on this end, but it's looking good so far. Can't wait to get it out on the road. Hopefully once it's getting a little bit warmer out over here in Illinois, get it out on the road and see how it performs compared to how it was with that other more squishy shock. And again, that red, it's popping, it's really looking good, really accenting the bike. And again, if you wanted to change your color of a spring, you could actually spray paint it, you know, just maybe spray paint a base coat or a primer coat of silver, and then after that, just whatever color your bike is, just spray that color. Now if you have a blue, you know, R3, you may want to go with an electric blue spray paint color, so that way when you spray paint it there, the shock spring, it would have that nice popping blue color, or whatever color. It could be green, blue, red, orange, purple, whatever. But anyhow, all right, well, that pretty much concludes this video. If you found this video very helpful, please smash that like button. If you hated the video, smash the dislike button. Let me know what I did wrong in the video down below in the comments to help me improve for future videos. Again, if you guys haven't subscribed, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, that way you guys are up to date with my latest videos, installations, and anything else I produce on this channel. You'll get a little notification on my newest uploads. I try to upload every Saturday at 11 o'clock. And so yeah, so that's about it. If you guys have any other questions or concerns or anything, also leave that down below. I'll have links for the products that I use, and also with this shock, on the shock I got from eBay. So just kind of look for a similar shock. I'll try to post as many as I can. Obviously with the links of eBay, once the shock sells, the link becomes no good anymore. Just keep that in mind, but I'll try to keep that as current and up to date. And also I'll put Amazon links for a shock of similar size. All right guys, you guys take care, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.